Eternal Flame. Chapter 1.
You pig! You plague-stricken warbler, you trickster!
Geralt, his interest piqued, led his mare around the corner of the alleyway. Before he located the source of the screams, a deep, stickily glassy clink joined them. A large jar of cherry preserve, thought the Witcher. A jar of cherry preserve makes that noise when you throw it at somebody from a great height or with great force. He remembered it well. When he lived with Yennefer, she would occasionally throw jars of preserve at him in anger. Jars she had received from clients. Yennefer had no idea how to make preserve. Her magic was fallible in that respect. A large group of onlookers had formed around the corner, outside a narrow, pink-painted cottage. A young, fair-haired woman in a nightdress was standing on a tiny balcony decorated with flowers just beneath the steep eaves of the roof. Bending a plump, fleshy arm visible beneath the frills of her nightdress, the woman hurled down a chipped flower pot. A slim man in a plum bonnet with a white feather jumped aside like a scalded cat, and the flower pot crashed onto the ground just in front of him, shattering into pieces.
"Please, Vespula!" the man in the bonnet shouted. "Don't lend credence to the gossip. I was faithful to you. May I perish if it is not true. You bastard! You son of the devil, you wretch!"
The plump blonde yelled and went back into the house, no doubt in search of further missiles. "Hey, Dandelion," called the Witcher, leading his resisting and snorting mare onto the battlefield. "How are you? What's going on?"
"Nothing special," said the troubadour, grinning. "The usual. Greetings, Geralt. What are you doing here? Oh, bloody hell, look out!"
A tin cup whistled through the air and bounced off the cobbles with a clang. Dandelion picked it up, looked at it, and threw it in the gutter.
"Take those rags!"
the blonde woman screamed, the frills on her plump breasts swaying gracefully.
"And get out of my sight! Don't set foot here again, you bastard!"
"These aren't mine," Dandelion said in astonishment, taking a pair of men's trousers with odd-coloured legs from the ground.
"I've never had trousers like these in my life. Get out! I don't want to see you any more. You... Do you know what you're like in bed? Pathetic. Pathetic. Do you hear? Do you hear, everybody?"
Another flower pot whistled down, a dried stalk that had grown out of it flapping. Dandelion barely managed to dodge. Following the flower pot, a copper cauldron of at least 2.5 gallons came spinning down. The crowd of onlookers standing a safe distance away from the cannonade reeled with laughter. The more active and unprincipled jokers among them applauded and incited the blonde to further action. "She doesn't have a crossbow in the house, does she?" the Witcher asked anxiously.
"It can't be ruled out," said the poet, lifting his head up towards the balcony. "She has a load of junk in there. Did you see those trousers?"
"Perhaps we ought to get out of here. You can come back when she calms down."
"Hell no,"
Dandelion grimaced. "I shall never go back to a house from which calumny and copper pots are showered on me. I consider this fickle relationship over. Let's just wait till she throws my...
Oh, mother, no! Vespula! My lute!"
He lunged forward, arms outstretched, stumbled, fell, and caught the instrument at the last moment, just above the cobbles. The lute spoke plaintively and melodiously.
"Phew!" sighed the bard, springing up. "I've got it. Oh, it's fine, Geralt. We can go now. Admittedly, my cloak with the marten collar is still there, but too bad. Let it be my grievance.
Knowing her, she won't throw the cloak down."
"You lying sloven!"
the blonde screamed, and spat copiously from the balcony.
"You vagrant! You croaking pheasant!"
"What's the matter with her? What have you been up to, Dandelion?"
"Oh, nothing unusual," the troubadour shrugged. "She demands monogamy, like they all do, and then throws another man's trousers at a fellow. Did you hear what she was screaming about me? By the gods! I also know some women who decline their favours more prettily than she gives hers, but I don't shout about it from the rooftops. Let's go."
"Where do you suggest we go?"
"Are you serious? The Temple of the Eternal Fire? Let's drop into the spear blade. I have to calm my nerves."
Without protest, the Witcher led his mare after Dandelion, who had headed off briskly into a narrow lane. The troubadour tightened the pegs of his lute as he strode, strummed the strings to test them, and played a deep, resounding chord. The air bears autumn's cool scent, our words seized by an icy gust. Your tears have my heart rent, but all is gone, and part we must. He broke off, waving cheerfully at two maids who were passing, carrying baskets of vegetables. The girls giggled. "What brings you to Novigrad, Geralt?" "Fitting out. A harness, some tackle, and a new jacket." The Witcher pulled down the creaking, fresh-smelling leather. "How do you like it, Dandelion?" "You don't keep up with the fashion," the bard grimaced, brushing a chicken feather from his gleaming cornflower-blue caftan with puffed sleeves and a serrated collar. "Oh, I'm glad we've met. Here in Novigrad, the capital of the world, the centre and cradle of culture. Here, a cultured man can live life to the full." "Let's live it one lane further on," suggested Geralt, glancing at a tramp who had squatted down and was defecating, eyes bulging, in an alleyway. "Your constant sarcasm is becoming annoying," Dandelion said, grimacing again. "Novigrad, I tell you, is the capital of the world. Almost 30,000 dwellers, Geralt, not counting travellers. Just imagine. Brick houses, cobbled main streets, a seaport, stores, shops, 4 watermills, slaughterhouses, sawmills, a large manufactory making beautiful slippers, and every conceivable guild and trade. A mint, 8 banks, and 19 pawnbrokers, a castle and guardhouse to take the breath away, and diversions. A scaffold, a gallows with a drop, 35 taverns, a theatre, a menagerie, a market, and a dozen whorehouses, and I can't remember how many temples, but plenty. Oh, and the women, Geralt, bathed, coiffured, and fragrant. Those satins, velvets, and silks, those whalebones and ribbons. Oh, Geralt, the rhymes pour out by themselves. Around your house now white from frost, sparkles ice on the pond and marsh. Your longing eyes grieve what is lost, but naught can change this parting harsh. A new ballad. Aye, I'll call it Winter, but it's not ready yet. I can't finish it. Vespula's made me completely jittery, and the rhymes won't come together. Ah, Geralt, I've got to ask, how is it with you and Yennefer? It isn't. I understand. No, you bloody don't. Is it far to this tavern? Just round the corner. Ah, here we are. Can you see the sign? Yes, I can. My sincere and humble greetings. Dandelion flashed a smile at the wench sweeping the steps. Has anyone ever told you, my lady, that you are gorgeous? The wench flushed and gripped her broom tightly. For a moment, Geralt thought she would whack the troubadour with a handle. He was mistaken. The wench smiled engagingly and fluttered her eyelashes. Dandelion, as usual, paid absolutely no attention. "Greetings to one and all. Good day," he bellowed, entering the tavern and plucking the lute strings hard with his thumb. "Master Dandelion, the most renowned poet in the land, has visited your tawdry establishment, landlord, for he has a will to drink beer. Do you mark the honour I do you, swindler?" "I do," said the innkeeper morosely, leaning forward over the bar. "I'm content to see you, minstrel, sir. I see that your word is indeed your bond. After all, you promised to stop by first thing to pay for yesterday's exploits. And I, just imagine, presumed you were lying as usual. I swear I am ashamed." "There is no need to feel shame, my good man," the troubadour said light-heartedly, "for I have no money. We shall converse about that later." "No," the innkeeper said coldly. "We should converse about it right away. Your credit has finished, my lord poet. No one befools me twice in a row." Dandelion hung up his lute on a hook protruding from the wall, sat down at a table, took off his bonnet, and pensively stroked the egret's feather pinned to it. "Do you have any funds, Geralt?" he asked with hope in his voice. "No, I don't. Everything I had went on the jacket." "That is ill. That is ill," Dandelion sighed. "There's not a bloody soul to stand around. Innkeeper, why is it so empty here today?" "It's too early for ordinary drinkers.
and the journeyman masons who are repairing the temple have already been and returned to the scaffolding, taking their master with them.
And there's no one? No one at all?
No one aside from the honourable merchant Biebervelt, who is breaking his fast in the large snug.
Dainty's here, Dandelion said, pleased. You should have said at once. Come to the snug, Geralt. Do you know the halfling, Dainty Biebervelt?
No.
Never mind, you can make his acquaintance. Ah, the troubadour called, heading towards the snug. I smell from the east a whiff and hint of onion soup, pleasing to my nostrils. Peekaboo! It's us! Surprise! A chubby-cheeked, curly-haired halfling in a pistachio-green waistcoat was sitting at the table in the centre of the chamber, beside a post decorated with garlands of garlic and bunches of herbs. In his left hand he held a wooden spoon, and in his right an earthenware bowl. At the sight of Dandelion and Geralt, the halfling froze and opened his mouth, and his large nut-brown eyes widened in fear. "What cheer, Dainty?" Dandelion said, blithely waving his bonnet. The halfling did not move or close his mouth. His hand, Geralt noticed, was trembling a little, and the long strips of boiled onion hanging from the spoon were swinging like a pendulum. "Greetings, greetings, the Dandelion," he stammered, and swallowed loudly. "Do you have the hiccups? Would you like me to frighten you? Look out, your wife's been seen on the turnpike. She'll be here soon, Gardenia Biebervelt in person." "You really are an ass, Dandelion," the halfling said reproachfully. Dandelion laughed brightly again, simultaneously playing 2 complicated chords on his lute. "Well, you have an exceptionally stupid expression on your face, and you're goggling at us as though we had horns and tails. Perhaps you're afraid of the Witcher. What? Perhaps you think halfling season has begun. Perhaps—" "Stop it!" Geralt snapped, unable to stay quiet, and walked over to the table. "Forgive us, friend. Dandelion has experienced a serious personal tragedy, and he still hasn't got over it. He's trying to mask his sorrow, dejection, and disgrace by being witty." "Don't tell me," the halfling said, finally slurping up the contents of the spoon. "Let me guess. Vespula has finally thrown you out on your ear. What, Dandelion?" "I don't engage in conversations or sensitive subjects with individuals who drink and gorge themselves while their friends stand," the troubadour said, and then sat down without waiting. The halfling scooped up a spoon of soup and licked off the threads of cheese hanging from it. "Right you are," he said glumly. "So, be my guests. Sit you down and help yourselves. Would you like some onion pottage?" "In principle, I don't dine at such an early hour," Dandelion said, putting on airs. "But very well, just not on an empty stomach. I say, landlord, beer, if you please, and swiftly." A lass with an impressive thick plait reaching her hips brought them mugs and bowls of soup. Geralt, observing her round, downy face, thought that she would have a pretty mouth if she remembered to keep it closed. "Forest Dryad!" Dandelion cried, seizing the girl's arm and kissing her on her open palm. "Sylph! Fairy! Oh, divine creature, with eyes like azure lakes! Thou art as exquisite as the morn, and the shape of thy parted lips are enticingly—" "Give him some beer, quick," Dainty groaned, "or it'll end in disaster." "No, it won't. No, it won't," the bard assured him. "Right, Geralt? You'd be hard-pressed to find more composed men than we two. I, dear sir, am a poet and a musician, and music soothes the savage breast, and the Witcher here present is menacing only to monsters. I present Geralt of Rivia, the terror of striggers, werewolves, and sundry vileness. You've surely heard of Geralt, Dainty?" "Yes, I have," the halfling said, glowering suspiciously at the Witcher. What brings you to Novigrad, sir? Have some dreadful monsters been sighted here? Have you been commissioned?"
"No," smiled the Witcher. "I'm here for my own amusement."
"Oh," Dainty said, nervously wriggling his hirsute feet, which were dangling half a cubit above the floor. "That's good." "What's good?" Dandelion asked, swallowing a spoonful of soup and sipping some beer. "Do you plan to support us, Biebervelt? In our amusements, I mean." "Excellent. We intend to get tipsy here in the Spearblade, and then we plan to repair to the Passiflora, a very dear and high-class den of iniquity, where we may treat ourselves to a half-blood she-elf. And who knows, maybe even a pure-blood she-elf. Nonetheless, we need a sponsor. What do you mean? Someone to pay the bills? As I thought, Dainty muttered. I'm sorry. Firstly, I've arranged several business meetings. Secondly, I don't have the funds to sponsor such diversions. Thirdly, they only admit humans to the Passiflora. What are we, then? Short-eared owls? Oh, I understand. They don't admit halflings. That's true. You're right, Dainty. This is Novigrad, the capital of the world. Right, then, the halfling said, still looking at the Witcher and twisting his mouth strangely. I'll be off. I'm due to be... The door to the chamber opened with a bang, and in rushed Dainty Bieberveld. Oh, ye gods! Dandelion yelled. The halfling standing in the doorway in no way differed from the halfling sitting at the table, if one were to disregard the fact that the one at the table was clean and the one in the doorway was dirty, dishevelled and haggard. Got you, you bitch's tail! The dirty halfling roared, lunging at the table. You thief! His clean twin leapt to his feet, overturning his stool and knocking the dishes from the table. Geralt reacted instinctively and very quickly. Seizing his scabbard sword from the table, he lashed Bieberveld on the nape of his neck with the heavy belt. The halfling tumbled onto the floor, rolled over, dived between Dandelion's legs, and scrambled towards the door on all fours, his arms and legs suddenly lengthening like a spider's. Seeing this, the dirty Dainty Bieberveld swore, howled, and jumped out of the way, slamming his back into the wooden wall. Geralt threw aside the scabbard and kicked the stool out of the way, darting after him. The clean Dainty Bieberveld, now utterly dissimilar apart from the colour of his waistcoat, cleared the threshold like a grasshopper and hurtled into the common bar, colliding with the lass with a half-open mouth. Seeing his long limbs and melted, grotesque physiognomy, the lass opened her mouth to its full extent and uttered an ear-splitting scream. Geralt, taking advantage of the loss of momentum caused by the collision, caught up with the creature in the centre of the chamber and knocked it to the ground with a deft kick behind the knee. Don't move a muscle, chum, he hissed through clenched teeth, holding the point of his sword to the oddity's throat. Don't budge. What's going on here? The innkeeper yelled, running over, clutching a spade handle. What's all this about? Guard! Detchka, run and get the guard. No, the creature wailed, flattening itself against the floor and deforming itself even more. Have mercy, no. Don't call them, the dirty halfling echoed, rushing out of the snug. Grab that girl, Dandelion. The troubadour caught the screaming Detchka, carefully choosing the places to seize her by. Detchka squealed and crouched on the floor by his legs. Calm down, innkeeper, Dainty Bieberveld panted. It's a private matter. We won't call out the guard. I'll pay for any damage. There isn't any damage, the innkeeper said level-headedly, looking around. But there will be, the plump halfling said, gnashing his teeth, because I'm going to thrash him, and properly. I'm going to thrash him cruelly, at length, and frenziedly, and then everything here will be broken. The long-limbed and spread-out caricature of Dainty Bieberveld, flattened on the floor, snivelled pathetically. Nothing doing, the innkeeper said coldly, squinting and raising the spade handle a little. Thrash it in this street or in the yard, sir, not here, and I'm calling the guard. Needs must, it is my duty. Forsooth, it's some kind of monster. Innkeeper, sir, Geralt said calmly, not relieving the pressure on the freak's neck. Keep your head. No one is going to destroy anything. There won't be any damage. The situation is under control. I'm a witcher, and, as you can see, I have the monster in my grasp. And because, indeed, it does look like a private matter, we'll calmly sort it out here in the snug. Release the girl, Dandelion, and come here. I have a silver chain in my bag. Take it out and tie the arms of this gentleman securely around the elbows behind its back. Don't move, chum. The creature whimpered softly. Very well, Geralt, Dandelion said. I've tied it up. Let's go to the snug. And you, landlord, what are you standing there for? I ordered beer, and when I order beer, you ought to keep serving me until I shout water. Geralt pushed the tied-up creature towards the snug and roughly sat him down by the post. Dainty Bieberveld also sat down and looked at him in disgust. It's monstrous the way it looks, he said. Just like a pile of fermenting dough.
Look at its nose, Dandelion. It'll fall off any second, God blimey. And its ears are like my mother-in-law's just before a funeral. Ugh!
Hold hard, Dandelion muttered. Are you Biebervelt?
Yes, you are, without doubt.
But whatever's sitting by that post was you a moment ago, if I'm not mistaken. Geralt? Everybody's watching you. You're a witcher. What the bloody hell is going on here? What is it? It's a mimic.
You're a mimic yourself,
the creature said in a guttural voice, swinging its nose.
I'm not a mimic. I'm a doppler, and my name is Teleco Lungravinkletorta, Penstock for short. My close friends call me Doo-Doo.
I'll give you Doo-Doo, you whoreson, Dainty yelled, aiming a punch at him. Where are my horses, you thief?
Gentlemen, the innkeeper cautioned them, entering with a jug and a handful of beer mugs. You promised things will be peaceful.
Ah, beer, the halfling sighed. Oh, but I'm damned thirsty and hungry.
I could do with a drink too,
Teleco Lungravinkletort declared gurglingly. He was totally ignored. What is it? The innkeeper asked, contemplating the creature, who at the sight of the beer stuck its long tongue out beyond sagging, doughy lips. What is it, gentlemen? A mimic, the Witcher repeated, heedless of the faces the monster was making. It actually has many names. A changeling, shapeshifter, vexling, or fetch, or a doppler, as it called itself. A vexling? The innkeeper yelled. Here, in Novigrad, in my inn. Swiftly we must call the guard, and the priests, or it will be on my head.
Easy does it,
Dainty Biebervelt rasped, hurriedly finishing off Dandelion's soup from a bowl which by some miracle had not been spilled.
There'll be time to call anyone we need, but later. This scoundrel robbed me, and I have no intention of handing it over to the local law before recovering my property. I know you, Novigradians, and your judges. I might get a tenth, nothing more.
Have mercy,
the doppler whimpered plaintively.
Don't hand me over to humans. Do you know what they do to the likes of me?
Naturally we do, the innkeeper nodded. The priests perform exorcisms on any vexling they catch. Then they tie it up with a stick between its knees and cover it thickly with clay, mixed with iron filings, roll it into a ball and bake it in a fire until the clay hardens into brick. At least that's what used to be done years ago, when these monsters occurred more often.
A barbaric custom. Human indeed, Dainty said, grimacing, and pushing the now empty bowl away. But perhaps it is a just penalty for banditry and thievery. Well, talk, you good-for-nothing. Where are my horses? Quickly, before I stretch that nose of yours between your legs and shove it up your backside. Where are my horses? I said.
I've sold them,
Teleco Lungravinkletort stammered, and his sagging ears suddenly curled up into balls resembling tiny cauliflowers.
Sold them? Did you hear that? The halfling cried, frothing at the mouth. It sold my horses!
Of course, Dandelion said. It's had time to. It's been here for 3 days.
For the last 3 days, it's... Damn it, Dainty. Does that mean... Of course, that's what it means, the merchant yelled, stamping his hairy feet. It robbed me on the road, a day's ride from the city. It came here as me, get it? And sold my horses. I'll kill it. I'll strangle it with my bare hands.
Tell us how it happened, Mr. Biebervelt.
Geralt of Rivia, if I'm not mistaken. The Witcher?
Geralt nodded in reply.
That's a stroke of luck, the halfling said. I'm Dainty Biebervelt of Knotgrass Meadow, farmer, stock breeder and merchant. Call me Dainty, Geralt.
Say on, Dainty.
Very well. It was like this. Me and my ostlers were driving my horses to be sold at the market in Devil's Ford. We had our last stop a day's ride from the city. We overnighted, having first dealt with a small cask of burned caramel vodka. I woke up in the middle of the night feeling like my bladder was about to burst, got off the wagon, and I thought to myself, I'll take a look at what the nags are doing in the meadow. I walk out, fog thick as buggery. I look, and suddenly someone's coming. Who goes there? I ask. He says nothing. I walk up closer and see myself, like in a looking glass. I think I oughtn't to have drunk that bloody moonshine, accursed spirit. And this one here, for that's what it was, ups and conks me on a noggin. I saw stars and went arse over tit. The next day, I woke up in a bloody thicket with a lump like a cucumber on my head, and not a soul in sight, not a sign of our camp either. I wanted the whole day before I finally found the trail. 2 days I trudged, eating roots and raw mushrooms, and in the meantime that lousy Dulico or whatever it was has ridden to Novigrad as me and flogged my horses. I'll get the bloody... and I'll thrash my ostlers. I'll give each one 100 lashes on his bare arse, the cretins. Not to recognise their own governor, to let themselves be outwitted like that. Numbskulls, imbeciles, sots.
Don't be too hard on them, Dainty, Geralt said. They didn't have a chance.